Well, this is a long time coming for me. Since 2013, when I started making video game content, I've always wanted to talk about this series. Metroid has always been one of my favorite franchises of all time, and the only reason why I haven't really done any videos on it is actually because of this thing. I actually wanted to have the capture card inside this working perfectly before I started doing series. Mostly because I actually have almost every 2D game on this system, except for Zero Mission, which isn't on the 3DS in any capacity. But now that I have the ability to do that, I think it's about time. With that said, I'm only going to talk about the 2D games. When Prime 4 comes out, then I'll talk about the Prime games, like the Prime Trilogy, Prime Hunters, Prime Pinball, Federation Force. And yeah, I'm only going to talk about the 4 main games, as well as other M, for various reasons. So with that said,
my first exposure through the Metroid series was actually through Super Smash Bros., like many kids that got their start with new franchises. Earthbound and F-Zero seem to be the more popular franchises in that case. Well, and Fire Emblem when Melee made its rounds. But for me, 2 of my favorite franchises were due to this. One was Metroid, of course, and the other was Star Fox. So that's another series I want to cover one of these days. Another time, I suppose. That and Smash Bros. With Ultimate coming out. I'm getting off track. But Metroid. If this isn't my favorite franchise, it has to be top 3 at the very least. I love this franchise. Ever since I played it back in 2013, when I got my 3DS from a random person selling it on Facebook. Not many people can say that, huh? Well, the guy sold it to me for $100, and he also left the SD card in it, which also contained the Ambassador program, containing the 10 NES games and 10 Game Boy Advance games, as well as a few other nice goodies. This is the first time I ever played Kid Icarus, which was pretty fun, and Pushmo. Why doesn't people talk about this series? It needs to get more attention. Damn it, I'm losing track of myself again. Let's start things off with, funnily enough, the game I started off with, Metroid on the NES. The story is as basic a science fiction story as you can make it. You play as the badass bounty hunter Samus Aran, who is tasked with taking out the space pirates as well as the invasion of the Metroid race, aggressive, life-sucking gelatin creatures that the pirates want to use for galactic takeover. And that's what you do, take on the space pirates. I think that's what the enemies are. They might just be the planet inhabitants. Though plenty of them are hostile enough that I wouldn't be surprised if some of them had affiliation with the space pirates. There are 3 bosses that are the leaders of the space pirates. Kraid, Ridley, and the Mother Brain. Kraid straight up wants Samus dead. He throws everything at you and it's crazy impossible to dodge it all. In fact, the best thing to do is shoot all your missiles and bombs at the bastard and hope you last longer than he does. Ridley throws a lot of plastic fireballs and jumps. Yeah, for the second boss he's stupid easy. At least if you want to cheese the boss like this. A riveting fight indeed, Smash Bros. Worthy at its finest. The last of the pirates and the leader is Mother Brain. Even as a big fan of the series, I don't get much out of her, outside of a later game I'll talk about later, and the Cat Men cartoon.
It's a piece of video land, and very big piece!
At least Kraid really got personalities when the games got more technically advanced. She's just a static brain-like creature and not a lot much else. Her fortress, involves red rings of death and turrets. She does jack shit. Also, before that room, the entirety of Turian is infested with Metroid, and they have more fight than the leader of the space pirates. Not saying much, really, because the Metroids in the first game are actually very exploitable. Ice beam to the face, and they're stunned long enough for you to shove enough missiles to kill them. Actually, let's get into the gameplay next. Back when I first played this game, I thought it was janky, slow, and didn't seem to be responsive to controls. Keep in mind, NES games aren't really as amazing as the stuff we have nowadays, and this was when Nintendo was starting out their console games. Even at that, they didn't play terrible. Most of them were just incredibly hard. Some are also very cryptic like Zelda 1, but everyone does have some fond memories with Mario 1 and 3. Actually, no, that's about it. But I think Metroid, after my last playthrough, I think it's actually pretty good, even for nowadays. You don't move very fast, but it's good enough to keep a well-timed pace. Samus's jumps are a bit floaty, but it's in space, so I can overlook that. And the level design works perfectly with it. And the equipment and power-ups are a little awkward. Their gunfire is short-ranged, and that makes some fights a little, not exactly weird, but not very fun. You get a long shot as an upgrade, so it isn't much of a problem. You also get the Ice Beam, which makes enemies freeze. It's pretty handy, but it does make enemies twice as long to kill if you need health or missiles. Actually, let's go there. The health in this game is just unbalanced. You start with 30 health. Even when you die, when you hit a checkpoint, you have several energy tanks in your disposal. 30 health is all you get, and it's bullshit. Even when you start the game, you start with that low of health when the most you can have is at 99. It gets annoying when some of the enemies not only hit like a truck, but many of them take too freaking long to kill. And some of them are invincible as well, so you have to dodge them. Or use one of the best items, a screw attack that either demolish or pass through any enemies in your way. But you do have to somersault to activate it, which is a pain when you have to do it near walls. Especially the Mother Brain fight. Damn this fight to hell, God bless the save states. There is one thing about the game that I can see as a positive and a negative, and that's the level design. First off, the standard design and exploration is pretty simple, and it's very much copy and pasted, but it's not impossible to explore without any outside assistance. You can even find the boss rooms and recommended items with some basic exploration. The enemy placement can be acceptable, but there are times when the enemies can appear in droves, or when enemies attack you while you're in a door. That's straight up bullshit. It always pisses me off when I get damaged and I have no way to...
The enemies knew she was a hot one before we ever did.
But yeah, while those are obnoxious, the level design itself isn't all that perfect either. When you want to go for every item in the game, the hidden items will piss you off. There's no way of telling players that there is something secret there. Zelda and Mario do this right, making secrets subtle, or at least inconsistent to the rest of the landscape. Actually, yeah, it is on the NES. It would be difficult to do that, but it makes it almost impossible for completionists. I feel like a map or some kind of outside assistance is required in order to complete without destroying your controller. Also, there are 2 ice beams in the game, as well as 8 energy tanks, but you can only have up to 1 and 6 respectively. I guess it makes the game feel non-linear, but if you're exploring everything anyway, it feels repetitive. But overall, I was surprised that I enjoyed the original Metroid. If you want to get the most enjoyment out of it, you might want a guide or walkthrough on standby. And expect the bullshit, especially the Mother Brain fight that killed me over 20 times. And don't let bugs get to Samus. We don't want the biggest bounty hunter becoming a slave to the space pirates.
I'm saying that like we're ending the video, but we have one more game to talk about. And that is its remake, Metroid Zero Mission on the Game Boy Advance.
Why Zero Mission? Well, we'll talk about that later. The game has the same story with better graphics and excellent remixes of the original music. I actually didn't talk about the presentation for the original, did I? Though the graphics aren't very spectacular, even on the NES, the music is a different story. I love the soundtrack in both of these games. Seriously, take a moment to listen to both renditions of the soundtrack. My favorites are Brinstar Deaths, Norfair, the beginning theme, Craze theme, and Ridley's theme. The last 2 weren't in the original, and were just generic boss tunes. These songs started out in Super Metroid, if memory serves. I doubt it was in Metroid 2, but I love the renditions in Zero Mission, Ridley's theme being my favorite piece in the franchise, and I am always glad to hear a brand new remix for it in every game. Back to Zero Mission, this is a remake on the Game Boy Advance, so the level design is actually changed very subtly in this game. There aren't a lot of copy platform layouts, if any. The game is a lot more linear in terms of progression. There are new rooms dedicated to new puzzles and enemies, new power-ups like the Speed Booster, and several mini-bosses to take out. Really, Zero Mission doesn't really have a lot of big changes. I hope I spoke too soon. Ridley is basically a giant version of his first encounter. Easier, but damn it, it's still difficult to dodge his projectiles. Either that or I'm just too reckless of a player. Ridley is actually a bigger fight as well. And while I do get hit every once in a while with him, it's still a little too easy. Ridley, you're an awesome villain, but damn, you're not even a problem. Even Mother Brain has more of a fight. Well, kind of. Most of your damage will still be from the hazard instead. Well, like the original game, it ends with a self-destruct sequence. Wait a minute. No, the game actually continues with new content. So that's actually kind of interesting. Here you have to sneak into the Space Pirate base while your suit is out of commission. It's basically a stealth section, avoiding all the Space Pirates, running away from any that chase you down, and stun any in your way. It also involves a fight with a mirrored Chozo statue and a robotic version of Ridley himself, which the latter is a legitimately challenging fight, though it will be easy with some lovely super missiles to the stomach. And another self-destruct sequence. Okay, these things are freaking ridiculous. Screw you assholes, taking your ship, hope you rot in Norfair. After the game ends, you get the credit sequence, as well as a total for your time and item percentage. You will get a different ending for what you get, but I'm not a fan of the item percentage determining your ending. In every other game, you just have to beat a certain time. Even the first game did this. I mean, it isn't hard to get every item if you want to get them all. Most of them, anyway. But getting the best ending in Zero Mission makes you get every item in under 2 hours. Possible, sure, but you'd have to dedicate your life to this game in order to achieve it. That said, it sounds like a bucket list for me, so why would I complain? And with everything said, I was very surprised with the first game. Yeah, it isn't the greatest game out there, but I feel like it's a good game to try out even today. As for Zero Mission, I still love this game. It's basically everything the first game had, stripped most of the bullshit, and added many new features that make it a much better experience.
And we're just getting started. Next time I'm going to be talking about Metroid 2, Return of Samus, on the Nintendo Game Boy, as well as its remake, Metroid Samus Returns, on the 3DS. It's actually kind of a cool looking title looking back at it now, but I'll talk about that next time. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll play with you guys next time.